Hello, this video is about polynomials. And the first thing you need to know about polynomials is that they're made up of individual terms. A term is a combination of a number and variable being multiplied, or a number by itself, or a variable by itself. The key is that there must be multiplication happening. As soon as you add in some sort of plus or minus, that is when you start separating the terms. So in this particular stretch here, this is one term, this would be another term, the -4, including the sign, would be a third term, and the fourth term would be this plus x over here. The coefficients would be the numbers in front of the variables. And we remember when there's a variable by itself like this, it's understood that there is a 1 in front. So this would actually be 1x. Now, this one down here is an example of a longer term, but it is still a term. And that's, even though it's got multiple variables, it's still considered a term. So the question becomes, what is not a polynomial? Well, if you have 5x divided by 3y, this is not a polynomial because it is being divided by a variable. As soon as you are dividing by a variable, it is not a polynomial. Now, this may look like it's not a polynomial or not a term because it looks like this being divided by something. It is being divided by 4, but this is the same as saying 3/4 times x, which means you do have something multiplying your variable, which makes it one term, which does make it a polynomial. All right, there are different types of polynomials. The first one I want to talk about is binomial. A binomial with its root of bi here means that you have, well, with a bicycle, there are 2 wheels. With binocular, there's 2 eye holes. Binomial has 2 terms. So you might have something like 2x squared plus 3x. This would be one term. This would be the second term. That makes this a binomial. Okay, after the binomial, we have something known as the trinomial. If you think about triceratops, they have 3 horns. Tricycles, they have 3 wheels. If you're religious, you may have heard of the Holy Trinity, the 3 spirits there. And a triangle is 3 angles inside of it, or 3 sides. Trinomial has 3 terms. An example of a trinomial might be something like 4x squared plus 3x minus 5. That would be a trinomial. It has 3 terms. 1, 2, 3 terms. Okay, the last one is actually really the first, the monomial. A monomial has only 1 term. Like Monopoly, the Monopoly guy happens to wear just the one eye thing there. It's called a monocle. It is one. Monopoly is called a monopoly because you got one person controlling a bunch of things, so it's a monopoly. Mono e mono. You may have heard someone say, let's go mono e mono. That means one-on-one. So that means that this is what we're talking about, one-on-one. Monomial is all about one term. And an example of that might be just 3x. There are 2 things here, but together they form a monomial. Even if I put a negative in front here, it's still considered a monomial. Now, when we talk about polynomials, all of these are polynomials. When you have 1 term, it's considered a monomial. 2 terms is a binomial. 3 terms, trinomial. But all of those are still subsets of polynomials. Now, you might ask what happens after trinomials. Well, after trinomials, there may be some people that give names to them, but generally, Once you go beyond the trinomial, if you go something like 4x cubed plus 3x to the 4th minus 8x to the 9th minus 3x squared, something like this, this has a total of 4 terms. After that, it's just known as a polynomial. They generally do not go into quadnomial and things like that. So as far as we're concerned, we go through monomial, binomial, and trinomial. We will not be going, anything beyond that is considered a polynomial. All of these are still polynomials, so if you're asked if it is or is not a polynomial, if it's a monomial, binomial, or trinomial, it's a polynomial. Okay, here's a you do. Why don't you take a moment, pause the video, and try and answer these 3 questions there with either monomial, binomial, trinomial, polynomial, or not a polynomial. All right, pause the video. Welcome back. All right, so question A. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Those 4 terms make this a polynomial. All right, you're not going to call it a quadnomial. It's just known as a polynomial. All right, the next one has division of a variable, which means this is not a polynomial. It cannot be it because you cannot divide by the variable. C is a, we got it, binomial. It's called a binomial because here's one term, and here, this long thing here is all one term here, and this is the second term, so that's 2 terms, which makes it a binomial.